Уважаемые коллеги, прошу прощения за
Distinguished colleagues, my excuses
задержкой.
for the postponing connected with the signing of agreements. Part of the colleagues is waiting for Mr. Nazarov, and after a while, some of the participants will join us. I'd like to welcome you here. I'd like to thank you for your participation. My name is Olvan Tan. I am an acting director within the industry of construction materials. Together with the Center of Strategic Initiatives of the Republic of Bashkortostan, decided to conduct this session connected with the resource base of construction and prospects of closed cycle economy. All in all, in our unified association, we are highly interested in the question of recycling, eco-friendliness, and development of the economy of the closed cycle. We have an acting committee on the sustainable development. I'd like to introduce my partner, my colleague, together with whom we would conduct this session. He is the head of the Committee on the Sustainable Development, and he would introduce himself when he'll take the floor. As we understand, the majority of the wastes represented both in Russia and worldwide, it's mostly connected with industry and manufacturing. Metallurgy, chemical industries, it becomes a part of the resource base for production of new construction materials. The association I present is one of the leading companies in production of construction materials. More than 100 companies connected with construction materials production are unified under our guidance. Today, we took a broader vision of the question. First of all, we'll discuss the wastes from extraction, from mining, logistic, and other opportunities of use of the industrial wastes, especially for the construction materials, the demand on the construction materials within the perspectives of the transportation infrastructure. All in all, we also try to touch upon the topic of the Bashkortostan's perspectives in the economy of the closed circle. Together with the Center of Strategic Initiatives of Bashkortostan, we plan to sign the following agreement of the section. I also would like to present to you Kondratiev Artem, the head of the Association of the National Union of Construction, and also the Minpромstroy representative on the question of waste recycling. Other colleagues would introduce themselves. I think we can start, and I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Mamulatov. Thank you very much, Anton Borisovich. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, and also I'd like to thank you for the burning question, our agenda. I hope that your interest would be supported by the content of our section, and we will find the directions for our interaction and cooperation, preparation of publications, joint work within the framework of the Republic of Bashkortostan, together with the participants of our event and under the support of other state authorities, social and scientific organization of the Republic of Bashkortostan. First of all, we hope for the support and coordination of
управляющую
and
помощь со стороны
coordination of the Center of Strategic Developments of the Republic of Bashkortostan, as
сотрудничаем.
we cooperate with Federal Russian Center of Strategic Development
Ну и я ближе
in this direction.
к
Now I'd like to get closer to the content of
моего
my speech.
Я, наверное, все-таки в общем
I think
выступлении
in general,
именно для того, чтобы обозначить вектор,
I'd like to
скажем так,
outline the vectors and conceptual structure of the issue.
расскажу кратко вопросы
I want to discuss
наши
the questions that
следующие выступающие смогут проиллюстрировать
would be illustrated
и
thoroughly
практически подкрепить.
by our next speakers and support with their practices and illustrate with their experience.
Уточнить.
If there is an opportunity to add something or to speak about the details of it, and
Получить ответ.
if we have some spare time, we'll get the answers for the questions.
Не будет.
There would be no speaker or Юрий Вячеславович.
Все-таки разрешите тогда сидя.
Let me stay in my place, and
Добавлю
I want to add
председатель
I am the chairman of the committee on the sustainable development of manufacturing and construction materials and construction industry, the leading expert
имени
of
экономического
Russian Economic University named after Plekhanov, where
расположен один из ведущих
there are one of the leading centers.
замкнутых,
The Department of Closed Cycle Economy
который является
is located. The head of this department is
генеральный директор
the CEO of
Буцаев Денис
RIO,
Петрович.
Mr. Butsayev.
Соответственно, мы довольно
Accordingly, we actively participate in the development,
концепции,
the models, concepts,
статистически
methods of statistical analysis
вот как раз этого вопроса экономики замкнутого цикла, которая, как
of the economy of the closed cycle that I
скажем так, кратко, я думаю,
want to present you in short.
конкретно с помощью коллег и доходчиво изложить.
Both myself and with my colleagues in our further
Так вот,
notions.
использование вторичных материалов.
The usage of the recycled materials.
Скажу, что наш,
I'd like to think that our developments,
ну и назовем так и
I could say them,
интеллектуальные, и
both methodological and conceptual,
говорят о
a great practical experience show
на фоне
that
отсутствия
within the framework of the lack of
именно моделей экономики,
exact models of economy and business,
таких моделей, организационных моделей,
organizing models of the closed cycle economy.
интуитивно
I think everyone heard that
где-то
there
отходы,
should be
их методы
the right usage and recycling, minimization of wastes,
привлечения в оборот и так
recycling of it.
Еще раз говорю, сами по себе модели
All in all, the models and examples
запускать
which
структуры,
measures, structures, and processes are needed
ситуироваться и
and how
желательно, наверное,
it should
производить
be supported and
свои мощности. Это все
used.
только у нас во всем мире по-прежнему нуждается
Now,
в разработке.
this agenda is highly discussed and needs its evaluation and
Этот
development within the world industry. This segment,
вовлечение вторичных материальных ресурсов
the involvement of the recycled materials into the construction industry for implementation of the large-scale investment projects on the development of infrastructure is the key concept, the core of the economy of closed cycle
экономики замкнутого.
development.
Чуть теперь конкретнее.
Now, let's dig a bit deeper into the recycled resources and their role
И
within this process
применительно к
and applying to the investment, construction, transportation infrastructure of the Republic of Bashkortostan.
несколько штрихов,
Several notes on
основные возможности.
the general opportunities and effects. First of all,
Помимо
apart from the richest
недр республики,
grounds of the Republic,
и уже сегодня говорили
what is
наши коллеги,
widely known, our colleagues would touch upon a bit deeper.
республике
The Republic
много
has
ценных
not only valuable
природных ископаемых,
natural resources, but
копленных
already
отходов,
collected wastes
их переработки
of mining and their recycling,
или же вскрышных пород при
or even open
минеральных
grounds
ресурсах.
after the extraction of mineral resources. So these materials
Уже накопленные,
are already collected
они довольно часто они сортированы,
and sorted
ну, скажем,
according to their type and stored,
подняты из недр и пластов.
already taken out of ground and layers.
Из них
Some of them are
ценным
of a great value,
уникальным сырьем
even unique raw material for construction industry.
в прошлом году
For example, last year we conducted
по Салаватскому району и юго-восточных районах
in Salavat region and southeastern part of Bashkortostan, we have conducted
клиентов,
the research
проводившего, скажем так,
because of the demand of one of our clients who conducted the pre-project research for cement
скорее это все или
plant, limestone plant,
смесей,
and also the
анализировал,
dry construction mixtures
ну, скажем так,
manufacturing.
пород,
So we analyzed the clays, limestones, and others
в этом регионе,
within this region
я уже называл,
that
обнаружили
I named before.
в некоторых
And we found
промышленно
the
добытый накопленный объем
industrially needed,
известняка
collected
для производства
dolomites
ценнейших и сейчас очень
and other materials which are quite
магнезиальных
expensive right now. For example, magnesium
упорных,
materials, fireproof,
керамических
or even ceramic
для отделки
for the designing,
и так далее.
interior design, and so on.
Это,
These,
это направление,
this direction,
оценка это
so the estimation of these resources
вещественным составом,
from the point of view of its quality,
вещественным составом,
the mixture,
примеренное, скажем так, к применению
the content for the
сырье,
usage
сразу же приобретает
and construction industry,
отходообогащение,
changes its status from the wastes
довольно
notion into the resource which is quite valuable. Taking into account of collected volumes,
инвестиционные ресурсы и
we need to estimate them from the point of investment resources of the region.
и, скажем, оценка
one aspect and assessment of the already recycled materials. The second aspect is
С развитием,
with the development of
начавшись с ковидных проблем,
COVID problems
связанных логистических проблем
and logistics problems
СВО,
within the special operation,
из режима, скажем так, работ по оптимизации
due to the changing of optimization works
задачи инженерно-логистического
into the
обеспечения
logistics supply of
материалов. То есть не просто
construction and
этих задач
manufacturing of construction materials.
лечить.
The solution of these problems
Эффективность проекта
would
операций
improve the economy,
необходимым
but it also becomes
фактором для
an essential factor of support and implementation of the project.
использования вторичных
The usage of the
технологий, которые для
recycled resources and technologies that are needed.
и технологий в широком смысле, и
In broader scale, technologies include methods, equipment,
операции,
organizational operations.
они
They
ориентированы на
are
использование местных материалов.
oriented onto the usage of the local materials, especially the recycled materials,
Логистическая часть
the optimization of the logical part.
экономики,
This share of economy,
логистических,
this share of
она, скажем так,
saving up on the
в
economic expenses
ресурсов
transfers to the
и определяет
cost of the resources
развитие
and determines the role and the importance of the development of construction and industrial construction
Третий аспект
field in the region. The third aspect, the reduction
этих материалов и с
of the prices
этими же технологиями
and elimination of
новые
part of the expenses
использование очень
are forced by the usage of
техники
new technologies, high-powered new technologies
использование технологий материалов позволяет
that allows
позволяет
to reduce the expenses and increase
для строительств, если мы говорим,
the
снизить затраты и не только на этапе строительства,
exploitation of
эксплуатации,
these
при этом
materials,
риски того самого
and also decrease the risks
возводимых
during the construction and operation of housings,
обеспечивает снижение
constructions, and so on,
и малодоступных.
which is provided by the
Четвертый аспект
expensive investments. The fourth aspect,
фактически вторичные материалы
together with all the previous aspects, the material resources could be or even become investment resources of the Republic,
муниципалитетов, ну, короче,
municipalities,
в зависимости от владельцев этих ресурсов, скажем,
and other subjects
которые
according to the owner of resources.
решение новых и новых
They could be used for solution of
при использовании
previous of different complications connected with expensive materials and traditional working methods.
в заключении
In conclusion,
такой эффекты вторичного
the effects of the second line effects
рост
is the
и среда и соответственно
both
факт роста инженерии
environment and the fact of the growth of manufacturing, geological and technical opportunities
экосистемы
and ecosystem of the region.
поскольку для проведения
because
работ
in order to
и проектных
conduct this type of works,
хороший уровень
we need a high
кадрового ресурсного обеспечения.
level of expertise and personnel. Thank you for the attention.
I would like to clarify one point.
Да,
Although we are out of schedule, well, I can speed up a bit.
можно помочь мне?
Can you help me out with the presentation?
Да, вернуть назад.
One slide back.
Нет. Вот сюда, да.
Yes, that's it.
Спасибо. Кратко.
I'll be very brief. That's a very good illustration.
В 2021
Back in 2021, 2022,
проводили
we conducted
публики довольно
a pilot project, quite a large one, in our republic,
переработки
to test the technology of processing and reprocessing recycled products in developing road infrastructure, building roads.
коллеги частично затронут эту сторону. Я лишь хочу
My colleagues will be able to talk more about that, and this project demonstrated how we can implement this approach,
для, например,
for example, to
развития в смысле и создания новых
develop and to work out both new roads and to reconstruct the old roads, bearing in mind this region around Bashkortostan and the whole region
скажем так, реконструкции
from the European side of the Urals, where it is necessary to restore both agricultural, arable lands and the places where roads are built.
оно особо
So everything I said about cutting down on risks and saving money can be implemented to this project as well. Yet another
архитектурно-строительное
aspect of this project is that our Institute of Architecture in Ufa set up a laboratory which can
этот подход освоить
use this approach. They worked it out. They can still use this approach
коллег из центра, из
and help our colleagues from other centers to implement this approach in our republic.
спектр отходов может быть не
The range of those recycled products can be very different.
химический.
It can be from chemical industry, for example.
Есть отходы,
There are wastes
которые да что ж такое? Которые вот в данном случае обладают
which can be very promising as export products,
перспективами, прежде всего
for example, organic wastes.
использования битумных
Here we can use them,
переработок.
for example, in building macadam roads, and we can use, for example, tires to reprocess them and use them not only as doormats, but, for example, to use them in
Очень яркая картинка.
patching up the surface of the road, and many road builders will recognize this picture immediately, and it can be exported to China. And in the end, I would like to say that
Озвученные мной направления
all these directions of our work
и проиллюстрированы коллегами.
will be illustrated more by my colleagues, by other speakers.
Чуть-чуть не
Thank you very much. As we are behind schedule a bit, I would like to ask other speakers to make your presentations a bit shorter,
оставить возможность для
and maybe we will be able to have some time for
И
questions and answers session.
представитель по КС
And now we have
готов, то я бы хотел представить
our speaker online, that is
университета
Vice Rector of the Russian
Зворыкин
Geology Surveying Institute
на месторождение.
about technogenic resources. Can you hear me?
Слышно?
Yes, we can hear you well. That's good. I'll try to be brief. I have sent you my presentation, and I think we can save on time. I do not have pictures over there. I have just bullet points. What I would like to say, we've created all the conditions to implement projects using recycled materials in different aspects. First of all, we would like to point it out that in 2023-24, new laws were entered into force which stimulates the license owners, the license holders, to use their wastes as specific materials. We didn't used to have this beforehand. Next slide, please. And we didn't used to have this opportunity. And that is why we have these conditions now, and it is very good. Yet another thing is that... No, we should get back to the second slide. There is this opportunity for the register where all the users of mineral resources can register their wastes, their tailings. And here are the coordinates, and you can give them some data on your mineral resources, but you cannot be very specific on the composition of those tailings dams. But right now the legislation is being worked out to be able to use these wastes, and the law stimulates tax cuts to the owner of tailings dams and wastes, which can be used. And on the other hand, there are fines and penalties which can be imposed on those who do not treat their technogenic wastes. So companies started working much better about that. Alros accumulated 40 million tons of technogenic waste, and we have an engineering center which specializes on enrichment and processing of raw materials, and we work out technological aspects of this issue. And we have worked out a technology. When we ask the owners of technogenic wastes, there is a specific cycle, create this closed cycle economy. So when they treat those wastes, there are no additional wastes produced. So we tried to organize this project with Alros to make some glass products, and at the moment we worked out 8 different materials we can produce, losing basically nothing, producing no more additional slime or slag. The problem right now is that owners of technogenic deposits are not highly motivated. They lack this motivation. And to put the technogenic resources on balance, they have to undergo the same bureaucratic procedures as with real deposits. You have to have proper geological survey and all those difficult bureaucratic stages. which is very complicated, especially when we speak about slags. They are very heterogeneous, and there are very dangerous and toxic materials over there. Mercury, for example, can be there, and you have to have a separate license to treat such materials. So here there are lots of barriers, and we have to work out a lot of laws. That is why our discussion is very important. We should work out recommendations to the Ministry of Nature how to stimulate the owners of technogenic waste deposits. Unfortunately, for building materials, there are a lot of limiting factors. First of all, is that the minimum content of, for example, rare metals, rare earths, gold, platinum, they do contain such materials, and it leads to prohibition of using these materials for civil engineering and construction. Basically, we have to make a law stipulating, working out, setting some criteria. When the content of gold is very low, we can officially call it sand rather than gold containing sand. But who can undertake this responsibility for that? And right now we've been discussing these issues with different authorities. And I would like to draw your attention to the fact that you should remember geologists. Do not forget about geologists. If you would like to know what should be done about technogenic resources, we should understand what we have there. And it's not always obvious, and we have to treat them, we have to analyze and check them and see what is there. So if you are interested in that work, I am accessible, and I've already found one of our agents, and there is a lot of work to be done, and it's pretty interesting. And I can say that the market for raw materials, for building materials which are produced from reprocessed waste products, it's kind of limited, but a lot of companies try to produce concentrated rare earths, and they succeed in doing that, but you can sell them only in China, and it is very difficult to receive an export license. And that is why the efficiency of the project declines. From a marginal project, it turns into a losing project for a bank. And of course, you need a lot of investments into equipment, into new specialized furnaces. And we speak not only about inert materials, but we also have glass, for example, foam, glass foam, and there are a lot of materials our building, civil engineering and construction market needs. Thank you very much, Yulia Viktorovna. As promised, I am very particular about minute details of the process, and I would like to draw your attention to two things. Now we saw the problems connected with the content of both bad and good, as geologists say, materials in the waste products. And also there is this economic aspect where Yulia Viktorovna is one of the leading experts of the Russian Federation. And despite her focus being on the problems, it's that Geological Research and Survey Institution is the federally appointed methodical body concerning work with technogenic deposits, concerning all the paperwork, issuing certificates, giving certificates to different types of deposits. So thank you very much for your presentation, and we continue our work in establishing the proper legislative basis, the foundation consisting of laws and regulations, technical regulations, and creating this whole conceptual basis. What is even more, even better illustrated presentation, and it is very close to our practical experience of the regions. Now I hope there will be such a presentation from Mr. Nikonov, Chair of Geology of UFA, Institute of Science and Technology. And he is also a member of the State Commission on Assessing the Mineral Reserves of the Russian Federation. Exactly the same authority the previous speaker said. Could you please speak into the microphone? I try not to repeat the previous speakers, I try to save on time, and I will bring your attention to practical issues of technogenic resources management. And the wastes of mining companies, it's not only potential building material, but also a huge deposit of precious, semi-precious and materials and iron. We have huge amounts, huge volumes of wastes and tailings accumulated within the 200 years, especially for the last 50, 70 years. When we talk about tailings dams, we have several billions tons. On the other hand, those are the so-called tails, tailings. Only or at the enrichment factories we have a lot of them. And the next type is hydromineral resources. That is the mining waters and open pit waters. Of course, they have heavy metals over there and they contaminate a lot. They spoil our life, they create serious problems, and you people of Sibay ought to know about that. You used to have terrible problems with pirate burning, and gases were contaminating that, polluting the atmosphere. But on the other hand, that's a very important source of different chemical elements. There are some assessments concerning gold. For example, tailings dams of Uchali, 160 tons. The assessment goes. Sibay tailings dams is about 70 tons. Gai enrichment facility is about the same, and we also have Northern Ossetia, Karacháyevo-Cherkessia, Sverdlovsk region, and there are lots of places like that. As for wastewaters, that's migration of highly soluble elements, for example, heavy metals, which actually flow away into the atmosphere. Tailings dams are of utmost interest over here because they are located, we understand where they are located, and where there is the permission drainage of those sulfuric acids. You can see the result. That's a photo at the Uchali enrichment facility. You can see these wastewaters from the tailings dams. There is the huge amount of sulfur over there, oxides of sulfur, and a lot of non-ferrous metals going in there. What is the practical experience? We have Semyonovskaya gold refinery. They have accumulated tails of cyanide enrichment and leaching. And we calculated the resources as we would have done with a normal deposit. We drilled and we assessed it like about 3,000 tons of gold and 49 tons of silver. That is like we walk on it. And we've studied all that, and the extraction is not high, it's about 50%, but it's okay. It would be economically viable, and it improves the situation, because a lot of bad things will go into the concentrate. That's how it looks like. Here we have this plain with fine sand, which contains a lot of gold and silver. Then there are actually the wastes after cutting the open pits, and in Bashkortostan it's about 2 billion tons. And we learned it about Bakartau deposit, and it was assessed as a deposit of building stone. Part of this object is where they stored metal-containing ores, and not a lot of research was conducted. Only about 7–8% of the deposit was opened, and the reserves were calculated: 382 kilograms of gold and about 5 tons of silver. And of course it's very difficult to drill on those tailings dams because everything is moving. You have to use 3 columns instead of 1, and we tried to learn it only as deep as an excavator can dig. Nevertheless, the results were pretty interesting. We found the places where you can actually smelt the ore. We can take the wastes and smelt it directly. There was also cyanide leaching and flotation, gravitation enrichment. That's how it looks like. It looks like Mars. The sulfides oxidized, and you see it's kind of reddish brown hue, and actually that's a high concentration of different metals. And as I've mentioned, that these wastes were treated as a deposit of building stone. If we work with this, the quality of the building stone is not high because it is mixed with the sulfidized, oxidized, and it's about 700, maybe 800 density. You have to look for good building materials over there. You have to look for something which is not oxidized, not sulfidized. So you should be very selective about choosing the stones over there. And several parts of it are just beautiful. It cannot be treated only as a deposit. It's kind of architectural stone. You can use it for design. It looks like Paleozoic stones with different hues of mineralized oxides. There is like jasper, looking like jasper. So for large cities, it could be a source of good architectural design. Then there is this deposit Bakar Uzyak. I'm very sorry, but you can have only like 2 minutes. Here is this copper ore, rich copper ore is lying around, and we have to assess it. And there are lots of objects throughout territory of Russia, objects like that. And if we take metals out of that, we can use those pyrite sands, for example. It's a typical component admixture to cement mixtures. We can use them over there. And of course it's very important in terms of treating our environment, because many waste deposits have the concentration of metals very close to the concentration of metals which we try to extract directly for the first time, and there is this international expertise of dealing with oxidized ores, and here this sulfuric oxidized desert has a lot of gold which can be extracted, and wastewaters. We used to have back in 1940s, 1960s, Degtyarsк treatment facility where they went when found a lot of copper by a very simple method of putting the ore through troughs and sedimenting it. And you can use organics for cleaning. For example, you can use sawdust, which grabs the necessary elements and using gravitation puts them on the bottom. And you've got my presentation, and if anybody is interested in that, you can check my presentation later on. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any
имена для прикасающихся к геологическим вопросам, да? Гайский ГОГ.
Those are wonderful names for those who are interested in geology. Gai, Uchali, Sibai, and they are so beautiful for those who understand such things. But I would like to bring our attention closer to the civil engineering and building construction, and Mark Gazizov is going to tell us more about that.
Да, я хотел сказать, что
Yes, I would like to say that the Republic of Bashkortostan is closely connected with your association, and Mark Gazizov is the head of the representative office of this association in Bashkortostan, and he is also a deputy of Kurultai of the Republic of Bashkortostan, which is kind of a local parliament.
In fact, when we are talking about recycled materials, at the example of Polyplast group of companies, which since Soviet times use the recycled materials of the forestry, manufacturing plants, and also other industrial plants, they all in all have a quite high overturn, and it makes the company successful. One of the departments is ruled by me in the Republic of Bashkortostan. All in all, the recycled materials and their usage is not a nuisance for me. Nowadays, our company has close ties with our Bashkir Petroleum University and is involved into the development of the recycled resources map. My presentation doesn't work. Could you please switch it on? The modern trends of the development, especially if we're talking about road construction. So to say, well, wait, especially the road construction is involved into high usage of the recycled materials. This trend is supported by the field program of the use of the recycled resources usage in the manufacturing of 2022-2023, and also the field program of the usage of recycled materials and the housing construction for 2022-2023. I'd like to add that the usage of recycled materials for the construction, manufacturing was highly practiced in Soviet Union. But as a result of bankruptcy of several institutions, all that collected materials were lost. Part of it was saved and used
и применение производства строительных материалов.
within the construction industry.
Доменные, гранулированные,
For example,
которые являются отходом мечевого материала,
the granulated
применялся в качестве
material was actively used as the active component
центра в Санкт-Петербурге.
used for the center construction in St. Petersburg. The Petroleum University conducted several research
Башкирская компания
that the wastes of the Bashkir Soda company,
без добавления вяжущего
even without the sticking
материала, который будет соответствовать
components, could create the material which goes in accordance with the type of concrete, the high smoke. Under the supervision of Mr. Sinitsyn,
был создан так называемый атлас
we have developed
вторичных ресурсов
the
в Республике Башкортостан.
recycled materials, recycled resources
К сожалению,
map,
который монтирован совместно с картами,
which
где отражено
which undergoes with Google Maps, where you can find the waste, who is the manufacturer, which natural resources
причем
are present on this territory, and how can you recycle it and reuse it. The institution could also count out the expenditures for its.
вторичных ресурсов
Taking this into consideration, the usage of the recycled materials would allow
колоссально улучшить
to
экологическую обстановку нашей страны.
advance the ecological state of our country, but also preserve the obtained resources, as they could substitute 20-30% from cement and other materials, construction materials. To sum up,
Охота сказать, то,
nowadays I'd like to say that
я надеюсь, что
I hope that the organizing committee
данные доклады
will take into consideration the speed, answers, and commentaries would create a memorandum for
исполнительные
conducting several actions within the legislation
Сказать, все презентации и
and authorities. I'd like to say that all the presentation, including the latest one, would be available on our website, or you can write directly to us to send it.
идем дальше. Хотел бы представить
So let's move forward. I'd like to present the director of Ariel, Mr. Razumov,
темой по переработке.
with the agenda on recycling of organic resources, organic waste.
Добрый день, уважаемые
Good afternoon, distinguished listeners. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for the invitation of the 6th investment summit tours of Raleigh, which opens that gives the opportunity to implement the modern technologies and reach the advancement of our socio-economical development of the Republic of Bashkortostan.
на слайде
Here on the slide, you can see
влияние и
the influence, the impact,
проблемные объекты.
and existing problematic objects of our republic and also the country itself.
Переработка таких
No doubt, the recycling of such wastes needs funding and also equipment technologies,
переводить в товарные продукты
which are needed to be transferred into the goods for purchase for its economical value.
на данном слайде.
On this slide,
Также рассмотрена недобросовестная практика
you
размещения
can see that there are the
представляют большой
violating practices
окружающей среды.
which cause a great hazard to the environment. Now we're involved into the development of eco-friendly equipment and technologies to get to receive the materials which could be used as a recycled materials. We have developed and introduced the technologies on recycling the organic wastes of agricultural sphere in order to get the fertilizers. We have conducted research on the usage of the mineral products of soda factory together with the Oil Technical University, which could be used as sorbents for mineral mixture, organic mineral mixtures with the high density. We could also study the advancement of the materials used for road construction. On this slide, you can see the usage of this technology, the practice and experience. Since 2018, we put into operation the roads. We need new economic and technological ways to construct the road and yachts. Here on the picture, you can see the process of construction of the roads, or Ленгоспецстрой, before stabilization and after the stabilization of the ground. This slide represents the technological scheme of the facilities for biodestruction of oil wastes. They could also be used for the complex recycling and get the mineral materials used for industrial trails and development of industrial infrastructure. On this slide, you could see the facilities for biodestruction of the oil wastes. The mix of different additions, composting, winding, and mixing. The next slide, you can see the scheme of such facilities, and it was included into the top ideas for the new age. Our company also introduced the facilities for recycling the agricultural products, waste products, into the fertilizers, organic fertilizers needed for plants, highly absorbed in comparison to mineral ones, so we could reach the eco-friendly products. Here are the samples of the samples and results of the utilization of drilling. Distinguished listeners, on these slides, you can see the implementation of those technologies and the solution of the extraction products which are already put into operation and found their niche and application in the industry. Our enterprise has the conjoint of existing and new technologies which helps to reach success and a good value of products within the cycle. In 8 years of our work, allowed to reduce the amount of wastes. The infrastructure based on our enterprise for the recycling of hazardous resources meet all the requirements of different experts and has all the legal
участвую в развитии региона.
confirmations and legal documents.
С этой целью наше предприятие приняло
Our enterprise also took part in the business mission to China, Shenyang and Harbin, on 17th of May.
в данной поездке
Within the framework of this visit, we had an opportunity to get acquainted with the technologies of recycling in China, which show the opportunity of full recycling of industrial waste
вторичных отходов
without
ведет максимально
adding of some other recycling waste. It's all raw material, it's all the just construction material, and
имеет место.
as the example of our company, all the problems have their solutions, and of course you could see the economic potential of development of these technologies and implementation them within the industry.
Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you for your attention.
Большое, Владимир Юрьевич.
Thank you, Vladimir Yuryevich.
На мой взгляд, очень
In my opinion,
обещал
that was
нам
a very good illustration. As I've mentioned, you demonstrated not only complex treatment, but approaches to complex implementation and usage of recycled products. And another thing is that
осторожно.
Vladimir Yuryevich was very cautious about that, but I would like to add on his behalf that
Сообща проговаривать
together with China, we are discussing opportunities of exporting some products manufactured by our company. So there is this export potential, and it is of huge importance for us. The next speaker will be online and is going to talk about complex technologies of treating mineral resources.
руководитель
And the presenter is the leader of Inotech group of companies. Alexander Evgenievich, are you with us?
Пожалуйста, только будьте в тайме.
The floor is yours, but please stick to the schedule. Thank you very much, and can I have my presentation on? I would like to say a couple of words before launching the presentation. We've been dealing with slags, and we treated those elements which could be exported, and we sold them to the United States, Europe, Middle East, and so on and so forth. In those slags, we found the most interesting for the viewpoint of business, because we are a private business. It is a huge problem. Can we have the previous slide, please?
Будьте добры, переключите, пожалуйста, вы, потому что назад здесь не получится.
Do you think you could switch it by yourselves? We cannot go backwards. Sorry. So the potential of using slags is very helpful to development different new technologies. The major objective when utilizing slags is when we take the material from the tailings dam, we cannot send it back to the energy producing plant. So we worked out several technologies which can allow us to deal with all the slags containing in the tailings dam. We extract iron concentrate, we extract clays and stabilizing binders for road buildings. But today I would like to talk about casting, stone casting, And stone casting back in 1985 was promoted by the Council of Ministers of the Soviet Union, and there were 5 plants envisaged to treat the slags into stone. That's a very fast method of raising high temperature during smelting process. This method was implemented in the so-called Vanyukov furnace and in the raw melt process. On this slide you can see the whole process, how it looks like. You have the slag zone, you have the container for the metal, you have the container for the slag. The developers are such organizations as Misisgi, Цветмет, Кипроникель, and Energoterm Sistema, headed by Mr. Kovalyov. The industrial implementation in non-ferrous metallurgy is at Norilsk, Balkhash, Srednyouralsk copper smelters. In Novolipetsk, they produced 40,000 tons of cast iron. And these processes, the Soviet processes, sometimes, very often, were taken from the foreign process. For example, our smelt process develops the same raw melt process. On this slide you can see the technological treatment of slags with the objective of receiving stone casts. And this stone casting can replace natural basalt, and you can produce pipes, you can produce cobblestones different times. And here you have the pipes cast from stone. They are no different from iron ones, but their longevity is 6-8 times larger. So we promote the idea of using such pipes, producing such pipes at copper smelters, for example, where they have a lot of slag, and we can have the closed circuit technology, and you can save a lot of resources there. Here you can see, as in 1997 on Kumertau power plant, they made the lining of the smoke pump with basalt cast stone, and usually these pumps work only for 2-3 months, but in our case the longevity of the product was 8 times higher. Stone basalt cast products are the best for aggressive environments, for places which have abrasive activities, and they are almost as hard as diamond. They have the 8th degree or more scale, so it is much more durable rather than any type of steel or any type of cast iron. And the slabs, the inserts made of stone casting, lining on furnaces, pipes made of that, they are much more durable rather than anything which can compare it with them. And of course these materials do not absorb water, for example, or they are very good in terms of isolating electricity. And here we have Starobeshevskaya power plant, It is on the territory of Russia, and they have been using 14 kilometers of pipeline lined with stone castings. And it was done by a foreign company, but it shows you how promising this line of work is. And we also promote this idea that this material replaces, for example, different types of ceramics, different types of plastics, different types of non-ferrous metals, and we create low-margin product which is necessary for different industries in the Russian Federation, which can replace granite and marble. And by the end of my presentation, I would like to define different industries where you can use these things. You can use our products in chemical industry, in mining industry, ferrous, non-ferrous, coal mining industry, power plants. So the idea of setting up such plants is obvious, and that is why we try to go to the government, to the Russian Federation and to the regional governments, and we would like to initiate setting up such plants to be established in basically every region. And here you can have how long our product can serve in comparison with the metal pipes. So you can see that our pipes lined with the stone casting can serve for 20-25 years, and those linings are made of slags. So thank you very much for your attention, and once again I would like to say that our group of companies works in different directions simultaneously now with the objective of building several enrichment facilities based on closed cycle with complete extraction of slags, and we will be building recreation areas, parks, so people would forget entirely that that used to be a tailings dam. Thank you so much, Alexander Evgenievich. I would like to add a couple of words that the brightest illustration of using Vanyukov furnaces is the work of the largest gold refinery, Krastsvetmet, which works with slags rather than ores. And it works with slags of Norilsk nickel. And that's the largest gold refinery in the world. And the second aspect is that when you work with the slags of coals, with the slags of power plants, you conduct a complex treatment. You do not return anything to a tailing dam. That's a complete cycle. You do not have any secondary wastes. And it is done with the silicon involvement, and it is a binder for building materials and for road construction. And by the end of our panel, we have this block about the final stages of life in construction and in building, but it is very important anyway, and we should pay a lot of attention to this. This is utilization and demolishing of old buildings. It can be presented by the executive director of the National Associations of Dismantling Buildings. This is the only association of companies working in dismantling, with breaking down different objects of civil engineering, and most of, for example, in Ufalle, in Voronezh, power plants, copper smelters, chemical plants. We've been working on many territories. And for ordinary people, you can simply destroy everything, blow up everything. No, we have here 11 directions of work, and 3 of them are not dismantling per se, it's treating wastes and byproducts. And they are members of our associations, and they aim at these 3 blocks. Why economy of the closed cycle? Dismantling is the final stage, and it can be done for several reasons. When we conduct this work, there is a lot of waste, much more waste rather than when building the same venue. And here are the wastes of dismantling. In all countries of the world, we can see it on the example of other companies. They are much larger. The amount of waste when dismantling and building is much larger. And only now we can understand this in Russia. What's the difference between these 2 illustrations? There is this good dismantling and bad one. The bad one, we just blow everything up, everything is destroyed, and it is not recyclable resource. Here we have a mixture of different wastes, and they are taken to some storage area. You cannot do anything with that. You cannot sort it separately. We conducted this research and asked a colleague in Kazan. I can be mistaken about the specific wording, but our colleague from Kazan said we have a lot of wastes after dismantling of buildings, and we do not know what is to be done about that. Well, basically you can extract metals and that's it, but there are no technologies where you can push everything into one furnace, for example, and metal goes into one trough, plastic into the other. So if you look at the right picture, it will be stored in the same way. So it's during the dismantling, and according to the law 89, we should dismantle everything while sorting. It should not be just an excavator, it should not be just a shovel. We immediately sort different types of waste products, and then we can include them into processing, whether on-site, if it is possible to organize it over here. If it is not possible, we can transport them somewhere else. And there is this national standard, although it's of recommendation, kind of a recommendation, still it is kind of regulations for us. And for the Ministry of Civil Engineering, when we have this regional program within the framework of the federal law of closed-circuit economy, we conduct a lot of statistical research, and we gathered statistical data about different organizations, and here are the results. That could be the cost for all participants, including our clients, if they were made, if they were forced to transport all the waste products to secondary treatment, if they cannot treat them on site. So you can see the difference. The shortish lines is when we can process everything on site, and in the right we have the same, but if we have to transport it, and that's the next slide, that's vice versa. There was the requirement of the client that you don't have, you do have to transport, you cannot treat them on site. And to the right, if we treated it on site, and first of all we speak about the concrete wastes, and this year there has been a working group established at the Ministry of Building and Construction, and Mr. Lomakin is the chairman. I am the deputy chairman of this working group. And to introduce a bit of fun, I can show what we do about developing our personnel potential to demonstrate what it is. Unfortunately, the video doesn't seem to be working. Do you think you could put it on? And could you cut down the sound? That was the first venue in Russia. And it's not just an exhibition of our equipment. No, our equipment was demonstrated how it works in reality. So we demolished a building, we brought concrete blocks, other things, and we demonstrated how we separate concrete from metal and how we produce, for example, gravel. So further on you can see, you can switch it off. It's basically the same further on. On the 27th of June, we're going to have Demolition Day, as we call it, and there will be huge industrial enterprises which are our clients. There will be educational institutions, there will be government officials, and there will be other people as well. Thank you very much for your attention.
Да, очень интересный фильм.
That was quite an interesting video. I think now we need to sum up.
Коллеги, мы
Distinguished colleagues,
видели
we saw
во многих, если не во всех,
almost all the aspects of the
важность,
agenda,
думаю, так почувствовали
its importance, and also
развитие,
felt the
возрастающую динамику
development
этого сегмента. Это
of this
он
field of this industry. So we could say that it
правильно
is strongly needed right now
общие усилия
and
позволят активизировать
is developed in the right environment. I hope that our conjoined efforts would lead to the success
в регионе
in the region,
Татарстан и за Урал.
in the Republic of Bashkortostan, and also in the Urals.
Всем большое спасибо.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues.
Было отведено 1,5 часа.
We had only an hour and a half
Стол.
for our round table, but
1,5 часа.
and
Спасибо.
we met the deadline. Thank you very much.
Спасибо, Антон Борисович.